Then it's Cox and Chris Lea about to dig in the crates. So turn it up, cause it's time for the culture state. Yeah, we do it for the culture, home of the greats. And in Carolina, good from the culture state. Chris Lea and Dennis Cox about to dig in the crates. So turn it up,
Let's
it's
go.
time for the culture
Welcome.
state. It's a Carolina state of mind.
It's a celebration. I can't say the last word, but it's the Celebration Bowl this week. North Carolina Central will take on Jackson State, the undefeated Jackson State Tigers, on this coming Saturday. I'm going to be heading down to Atlanta. My man Dennis Jamel Cox. So we can cover that, have that good coverage, and see if North Carolina Central can walk away with that coveted Black College National Championship game.
I'm looking forward to it because we didn't get an ACC champion from the state of North Carolina. We're not going to get a national champion from the state of North Carolina, at least at the FBS level. But like you said, we can get that HBCU national championship this Saturday. So everyone in the state of North Carolina needs to rally around the Eagles.
Yep.
Even if you're an A&T Aggie, that's okay. You can support your friends. All right, doesn't matter. We all bound, whatever it is. We all group together.
We get
pull
what
for
you're
the
saying.
Eagles.
We also missed out on the women's national championship in soccer.
We did.
So, I mean, there's all kinds of things that we kind of missed out on as a state of North Carolina. So
Missed out on a national championship in men's basketball, too. A lot of North Carolina missing out on some stuff. UNC, what's up?
Yeah. But I'll tell you what we're not missing out on.
What's that?
Matt Rule. Because the Panthers are doing pretty well without that guy. But that is off topic for right now because we're talking about North Carolina Central. And they have an opportunity to do a lot. It seems like every year the MEAC team is always the underdog versus the SWAC team. And even back when A&T had their amazing run and they won 4 Celebration Bowls in 5 years and absolutely dominated the first 5 years of that particular game before they left the MEAC. The SWAC team was the one that was favored most of the time.
Yeah.
And it's like how is that? Now, I definitely get it this year. Jackson State is nothing to play with. I mean, if they decided to opt out of the Celebration Bowl game and go to the FCS playoffs, they would have done an amazing job and probably could have won a national championship that way. But, this way you kind of opt out. You get a little bit more money. You can, play one game instead of having a tournament and potentially traveling all around. And Jackson State is not going to be anything to play with, but they are a little distracted. What's going on with their head coach, Deion Sanders? That will be his last game with them. Shedeur Sanders, his son, their quarterback. He's going to be following him to Colorado. Are those guys thinking about Boulder, Colorado, and not thinking about the Celebration Bowl right now? Have they mentally moved on?
Yeah.
Have the players mentally moved on? NC Central, they're looking at themselves as underdogs. They always see themselves as underdogs and wanting to spoil the party. They spoiled the party for North Carolina A&T in 2016.
Yeah.
Who was looking to go to the Celebration Bowl after they won the first one in 2015. And Central went instead of North Carolina A&T. So the 1 year that A&T didn't win in that 5-year stretch was because Central ruined the party for them and they didn't get a chance to go.
Yeah.
So Central's just looking to do the same thing again.
It's interesting how you bring that up. We're going to talk to Tolly Carr. We spoke with Tolly Carr from HBCU GameDay on our show on Saturday, on Culture State Saturday. And we're going to replay that here for you, that conversation. And one of the things that it's kind of looked about with Deion, the focus is certainly on him regarding the game specifically. It's like, well, it's Deion's last game. There's obviously been a lot of discussions about, okay, well, what did Deion do for HBCUs during his time at Jackson State, and then now him leaving? What does that mean? What kind of message does that send? So there's a lot of different angles that come into it, but in regards to the game itself, yeah, if I'm a player on that team, it's like, well, my quarterback, my coach are leaving, and Deion wasn't even at the press conference for the game last week. Trey Oliver was there, but an assistant coach for Jackson State was at the press conference, not Deion, because he wanted to go to the Colorado basketball game to show face there. Because that happens oftentimes with college basketball or college football. When a new coach comes in, they show up at a men's basketball game and a women's basketball game just to, kind of rally the fan base type deal. So I get that. But so, yeah, if I'm a player, I'm like, well, he's off doing this stuff and we got our assistants are preparing us. Yeah, is there going to be synergy in the game? Who knows? Only they can answer that question. We don't. We can speculate. But I don't know. If I'm a player on that team, I'm thinking, well, what's in it for me? Like, I know this guy's leaving. I don't know.
But if you are a player on a team, what's in it for you is the fact that you get to play on national television on
There's
ABC
that too.
At noon, and a chance for a Black College National Championship, no matter what's happening after the game. So
Good point.
It's one of those things where it could be like, hey, this is the last hurrah. Maybe one of those players could jump in the portal themselves afterwards and land at a good spot. Who knows? But there's always something to play for, even. If you're on a really bad team, like what coaches say, every time you're out there, you're putting yourself on tape for somebody else. You're auditioning yourself for somebody else. So, and I know that's probably what he's going to be saying to his guys as they're going out there. And they don't want their last game together to be a loss after going undefeated so far in the regular season. So
that's true. Yeah, you put all that work to get to that game.
Yeah.
Right. That your whole season was built around, all right, get to the Celebration Bowl, win the conference, get to the Celebration Bowl, win that championship.
They got to it last year and they lost it. Jackson State lost it. They
That's
don't
right,
want
lost South Carolina State.
Yeah, they don't want to now repeat it and get back, their whole goal for this year and then just lose out on it. And so but that's what North Carolina Central is trying to make them do, lose out on everything. So we'll see what happens. We talked to Tolly Carr about the impact of Deion leaving and how it impacts other HBCUs, and here's our conversation with him right here.
Well, I know someone who's going to be
these burgers.
I know someone who's going to be busy down in Atlanta next week. Tolly Carr, our next guest here on Culture State Saturday, joining us here on the Heaster Automotive Group Hotline. Tolly Carr, host over at HBCU Game Day. Tolly, I want to get into this right away. Deion is gonna coach, but we already know he's leaving. Is that a good move?
I think it's a win. Is in terms of the best situation possible. Your coach is leaving. Look, Deion Sanders is a global icon. If you're Jackson State right now, you want to squeeze as much as you can of what's left of this opportunity. And moving forward, you constantly want to attach your brand to the brand of Deion Sanders. That's a gift that keeps on giving. So not ideal situation. You'd love for him to be coming back next year, but hey, he's gone, man. But he's going to stick around and finish the job and a chance for an unbeaten season. So, not perfect across the board, but looking at that, that's a pretty good scenario to finish with him as your coach and finish with the championship.
Well, here's the thing as well. Him being there is going to bring more attention to the game.
Absolutely.
So more people, more eyeballs are going to be on the game. Yeah, you think?
Yeah.
I mean, it just makes sense, too. Like, it's Deion Sanders. It's Atlanta, Georgia. Like, come on now. Like, he played for 2 professional teams out there. Tolly Carr joining us right now. Tolly, I wanted to talk to you about kind of some of the ire from HBCU fans because of him going to Colorado. For me, I didn't go to an HBCU, but my parents went to an HBCU. I have so much love for North Carolina A&T and also for Winston-Salem State because I grew up in a triad. So that's something that those are 2 schools that I feel like I have a connection towards. So I get the idea of the disappointment. But I think we also knew as soon as he took the job at JSU that at some point when the big job was coming, he was going to go for it, that this was only a short-term deal. You, of course, went to Winston-Salem State, taught there as well. What are your thoughts on this and how some folks are taking this in as they're really upset with Deion Sanders going to a Power 5 school in Colorado?
Well, Dennis, Chris, it is the internet. It is the cesspool of, hey, I got a problem with what you just did.
Yeah.
I have a problem with kitty cats. I have a problem with sunny blue skies. I have a problem with 72 degrees. You name it, people will voice their frustrations. When he first took the job, the immediate conversation was, man, how long is he actually going to be here?
Yeah.
I kind of had the under-over set at 3 years. And if you count that spring season, this is his 3rd season.
Yeah.
Look, I'm a proud graduate of Winston-Salem State University. I cover HBCUs, obviously, for a living. But at the end of the day, it's still FCS football at the highest level of HBCUs. Deion Sanders has always competed at the highest levels. His earning potential is unlimited. he can take this job. Look, Colorado fans are going to probably be crying 4 years from now.
Yeah.
He has an opportunity to get in there, make his name in the Pac-12, and end up in the SEC or wherever. He has no desire to coach pro football if you take him at his word. So how do you hold back Deion Sanders? Like, how do you do that? And if you look at his career, if you look at everything he's did, his universal footprint, this is what he does. He goes to an organization.
Yeah.
He takes his brand to that company, that organization. He knocks it out of the park for a few seasons, and then he's on to the next challenge. So anyone that was surprised that things have ended the way that they have, they are hugely, hugely, hugely optimistic people.
But a lot of folks feel like he walked back on some, I don't know, what promises that they feel like he made at the beginning, things like that. And somebody we both know, B-Dot. B-Dot's been very vocal this week about his thoughts on the whole thing, and he did the same thing on our show last week. And it was something that it kind of surprised me because, again, as we just said, we know that this is what he's going to do. What do you think the impact will be on HBCUs, whether positive or negative, with him coming to Jackson State? Will he leave something? Is something going to be left behind to help HBCUs in their quest to get more, funding and also time on television in the future?
Well, brand recognition, that is what we are all searching for, right? The brand recognition of Jackson State University right now is as high as it has ever been. And it's really up to the good folks there to leverage that and move forward with that leverage that, hey, our brand is highly visible right now, and make some really smart choices. I think the choices that they make over the next couple of months may be the biggest choices in the modern history of the university and how they intend to move forward with their football program. You just don't get a gift like this, man. For Deion Sanders is an icon. Again, here's the tricky thing about Deion. He fools you because he's so down to earth. He's so folksy. He'll just kick it with regular people, just make it feel like, hey, I'm just one of you guys. And then there's something that happens that just jolts you back into reality that, man, this guy is one of the most famous people around. And the fact that he has a passion, most people with his skill level and his notoriety and his brand, man, they're not showing up at football practice, coaching college kids at 4:30 every morning. I mean, this guy, guys, he lost 2 of his toes last year.
Yeah.
Like how many people are still coming to work in that predicament? So the outrage about him advancing and moving on, I'm like, man, think about everything that he gave and left behind. Like literally was, I mean, this was like a life or death situation last year, and he was willing to put his good health on the line to coach and be a part of this program, and to be ungrateful about that.
And he put a lot of his own money on the line for their locker room and other things, to be built at Jackson State.
That was his funding. A lot of people don't realize, people think, his salary was $300,000 at Jackson State. He was taking half of that and putting it right back into the athletic department and into the program. So it's not like he was just taking that money and banking it, not that he needs it, but the fact that he was giving that money back says a lot, I think, because he did help build things up there. Tolly Carr joining us from HBCU Game Day here on the Heaster Automotive Group hotline here on Culture State Saturday, alongside Chris Lea. I'm Dennis Cox. Now, we often see black coaches, people of color, get passed over for coaching opportunities, whether it's to a Power 5 school, even to a Group of 5 school. If he has success at Colorado, do you think this is going to open the door up for other coaches coming from HBCUs to maybe get a Group of 5 job or a Power 5 job?
So this is the conversation that the national narrative hasn't gotten around to yet. And I say this with all due respect. I know you got to watch your words in today's society. If anybody has a problem with me, Chris Lea will battle them in the steel cage. So Chris has my back.
He will. I'll be the manager on the outside.
And I mean what I'm about to say in the most positive way possible. But America is about to see at the FBS level, the highest levels of college football, they're about to see the blackest coach they have ever seen. Now you think back to coaches that you've seen, African American coaches. You know, they're pretty buttoned up at that level. They kind of play it straight, play it down the middle. You're about to see a coach with gold chains, with his hat kind of cocked to the side, a hoodie and sunglasses out in public, and that's not an act, and it's not him trying to fill some stereotypical role. That's just him. And that's just who he's always been, and he is so comfortable within his skin. He often says, something to the effect of, don't let my confidence offend your insecurities, or something along those lines. Okay. So we're about to see a man that's going to bring a whole lot of flavor to the table, which is cool because if you look at, Mike Leach, Lane Kiffin, I mean, those guys are, they're kind of off the chain too, right? But
they're full of personality.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's authentic. That's who they are. So Deion is about to show you a man of color who does not care at all what anyone thinks about him. He's not threatened. He's not worried about his position. He is going to be himself. And that has the potential to open up people's eyes and say, hey, maybe this CEO position that we put so much emphasis on, maybe different types of people, different personalities, different looks can succeed and do well in this position. And that's the conversation that we haven't even gotten around to because everybody's so much in their feelings.
I will say this, though, like going along with what you're saying, Tolly, covering HBCUs around here, I would love to see a Rod Broadway or Sam Washington or a Trey Oliver type of head coach in the Power Five because, I mean, these guys – all speak their minds. Rod Broadway, of course, former Central coach, former A&T coach. Sam Washington, current A&T coach. Trey Oliver, current NC Central coach. Those guys have personality, and they will tell you what it is, and they do it in their own different way that has been okay for the HBCU realm. But this will be the first time we've seen somebody go from HBCU head coach to straight to a Power 5 head coach, and I would like to see a little bit more of that. What do you think that this potentially does open a door outside of brand recognition, open a door for coaches like those to be discovered a little bit more and maybe would have choices and chances at Power 5 schools?
Well, if you think about it like this, Chris, he's going to bring, a few of his coaches. We still don't know how many from Jackson State University. Vincent Dancy, who was the head coach at Mississippi Valley State, has signed on to be an analyst with that program. So if this job goes well and they start to win, they start to get a lot of attention. Look, when these announcers and people are talking about the games and they go down the coaching staff, you have to say, hey, this coach was at Jackson State last year. This coach was at Mississippi Valley State. It goes back to that brand recognition, and you start to hear those school names in a positive light, in a positive tone. You see success, you attach that success with that institution. It's just going to help if people have those aspirations. Look, just 2 years ago, it was a big deal for a HBCU head coach to leave to take an assistant position. People would look and say, oh, wow, look at that, man, he got a big raise. And, he went from head coach here at the D2 or FCS level, goes and joins the FBS program, and, he got a big bump. Congratulations to that guy. And that's just as an assistant. So to see this jump, again, it is Deion Sanders. That is an anomaly. You can't just clearly label him as just an HBCU head coach, but it's going to be there and it's going to help.
It was big to see Natron Means go from Winston-Salem State to UNC as assistants in both places. We do have
we underutilized them. We underutilized. I was like, man, this is Natron Means.
Yeah, right. We do have the Celebration Bowl. It is next week. North Carolina Central, our home team in this area, going against Jackson State, which is why we're even talking about this. Jackson State, probably one of the best FCS teams out there in general, with a lot of FBS talent. NC Central, a good FCS team that has shown that they can knock off a team. They did knock off a top 25 New Hampshire team earlier this year in New Hampshire on the road, I might add, and it was a decisive win too, 45-27. What do you see coming out of this game, Tolly? I know that Jackson State is favored by 16 points, but if NC Central has any inkling, any chance of winning, what do they need to do to get the Celebration Bowl victory?
Well, you look at what South Carolina State did last year in the huge upset against Jackson State, and that was controlled field position. That game was the tale of two halves. South Carolina State really struggled to move the ball in the first half, but they played solid defense, had some key turnovers. Jackson State turning the ball over on their side of the 50-yard line, which shortened that field for South Carolina State. But look, this offense of North Carolina Central is much more potent than what we saw last year from the Bulldogs. Davius Richard, the MEAC Offensive Player of the Year, only pales in comparison. And pales is not even the right word. Shedeur Sanders, the quarterback for Jackson State, his stats are just a notch above. But that is nothing to be ashamed of. Yeah. And Richard's actually a better runner, so it's probably a better two-way quarterback. I think he averages about 65% passing, where Shedeur is right at 70. But he's definitely more dangerous on the ground. So that's going to be something that the Jackson State defense, who is a very, very, very good defense, they're going to have to keep their eyes open. But, on the other side of the ball, man, that offense of Jackson State is so potent that, it can go either way, man. I wouldn't be surprised if it's tight, if Jackson State really put up some big numbers. But the Central offensive is explosive as well, man. I think both of these teams are averaging right at 38 points a game. Yeah. So, you're looking at the potential for 5 touchdowns on each side. But that Jackson State defense, holding opponents to right at 11 points per game. If it plays out and, the stats hold, you give the edge to Jackson State. But, this is for a championship, man. You never know who might get a little tight.
Exactly.
You might react in the environment. It's a fighter's chance, even more than a fighter's chance for North Carolina Central, a very good team. So I'm hoping for a really exciting game. And, some teams play Jackson State pretty close. But here's the thing about Jackson State, man. They will score so many points. It's always like the tale of two halves. You know what I mean? Like a team might play better in the second half than Jackson State did, but, they got down by 3 or 4 touchdowns early in the game. So they have shown some vulnerability. I don't want to get up here and hype a blowout. But I think it'll be one to watch, man. Pretty exciting. It'll be on noon, on over-the-air TV, so everybody will get a chance to see it. Should be a great one.
Absolutely. Tolly Carr, HBCU Game Day host. Thanks for your time, sir. I really do appreciate it.
One of my mentors. I am who I am today because of Tolly Carr.
No, you are awesome. But I'm very proud of you, Chris, and happy to share a little bit of airtime with you. It has made my weekend, brother.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
That was a great conversation with Tolly, by the way. And here's the reason why I brought up the question or asked him this about, okay, if Deion has success at Colorado, who's to say that, well, first of all, a lot of when programs are successful, other schools look and they're like, okay, what assistants can we pull from there, right? Well, if he's bringing in a bunch of assistants from other HBCUs, right, well, that's who you're going to be looking at, right? But I also look, for example, like Trey Oliver at NC Central. If a week from today, if he outcoaches Deion, people would say, wait, that guy just outcoached Deion.
Big point. That's
like, that guy just outcoached Deion. Now, some people might say, well, Deion's already like halfway out the door, or basically is all the way out the door just about. He wasn't even at the Celebration Bowl presser a couple days ago. But you can sit there and say, like, that guy outcoached that team. That guy's going to a Pac-12 school. Who's to say, like, we shouldn't give that guy a closer look?
And that was something that, like, as we were talking to Tolly, something that I didn't even think about is that, some people are kind of looking at the now. Deion Sanders is leaving Jackson State. So they're looking at it as if he is forever done with HBCUs. But no, he's always going to be connected because if he does do well, let's say he does win a Pac-12 championship. Yeah. And when the CFP expands, they go to the CFP, Colorado does. What if they win a game or two in the CFP, right? Yeah. Under Deion Sanders? Well, we know that these ADs and we know that in professional leagues, they're copycats. Wait a minute. You mean this guy came from HBCUs? Yeah, let's look at Mr. They Better Bring Me My Money, Sam Washington over at A&T. Let's look at Trey Oliver from North Carolina Central. Let's look at Eddie Robinson Jr. at Alabama State. Let's look at all these different coaches that are out here doing their thing on the HBCU level. They might be able to help us out on this level, and that does still kind of help continue open the door.
Yeah, you never know. Maybe it's not for a head coaching position, but even a coordinator that eventually you build up to being a head coach. Even a group of 5 school.
Yeah.
For example, if Mike Houston ends up leaving East Carolina in a few years, well, Trey Oliver's going to the Celebration Bowl and things like that. Hey, he's right down the road, already got a North Carolina recruiting base. Why not bring him from Durham to Greenville? Things along those lines. And that is a step in and of itself.
And the difference in resources, too.
Yeah.
Because
from FCS even to group of 5 is night and day.
And that's going to be huge. But then also, that also opens the door for more coaches to move around, I think, in HBCU football.
Yeah.
And then hopefully that also opens the door for more funding for HBCU football, because now people are like, oh, this is a resource, not only of just, for television stations to have extra programming, right? You can look at it as like, okay, we need more funding for this because our next great coach might come from this area. We need to make sure that these schools have funding and they have programs that continue and stay on.
The long-term effect, I think, is something that we won't know maybe even 10 years from now, is when we actually may not even see the long-term impact of, again, but a lot of it also is contingent on Deion having success at Colorado.
Yeah.
Because if he goes to Colorado and that program's not very good, then people are going to be like, well, see, here's why.
But I don't see that happening, though. Like, transfer portal, he's just going to get guys.
There's no reason why in 2 years they're not winning their conference. Just simple.
Especially when UCLA and USC leaves.
So we're hoping that the MEAC gets the win here. The MEAC has dominated the Celebration Bowl for the most part. Like we're talking about 2015. MEAC didn't win in 2016 because North Carolina Central didn't win that year. But 2017, 2018, 2019, the game didn't happen in 2020 for obvious reasons. And then 2021, the MEAC wins again. So the SWAC, even though they're always favored, has only won one of the games. And so this would be only the second SWAC championship if they were to get it. Now, in all fairness to the SWAC, they ran into a juggernaut in North Carolina A&T before those years. So like that was just a team on a mission that couldn't be stopped during that time period.
For sure. And as I mentioned earlier, the state of North Carolina, we need to rally together. And how cool is this for Central to bookend their season? Yeah, the Aggie Eagle Classic at Bank of America Stadium on national television to start their season, and they get a big win on national TV, right? On the opening weekend of college football. You can finish it on national television with a Celebration Bowl win, this time in Atlanta and Mercedes-Benz.
Recruiting through the roof.
I mean, yeah, exactly. Like just to bookend your season that way, beating your biggest rival on a national stage and then potentially winning a national championship again on a national stage. To start and end your season that way potentially, pretty awesome for Central.
Yeah. And so, it's a great opportunity for them. And either way, if they win or lose, this was a great season, one of the best seasons ever, you could probably say, for North Carolina Central. Only 2 losses during the year. The Campbell loss was a little bit of a head scratcher.
I was there for that game.
And it was one of those games where they had really shown up for other games, but that was like the only game they really didn't show up for. And then their other loss to South Carolina State, a team that they're much better than, but South Carolina State's just one of those teams where you're going to get in a literal dogfight with the Bulldogs every time that you're on the field with them. And and they can ruin somebody's day. North Carolina Central could have gone into this game undefeated, just like Jackson State. I mean, there was a good chance, if they didn't have 2 bad days during the season, this could have been undefeated versus undefeated, and it would have been a crazy storyline heading into this game.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, it's gonna be fun, Chris. Go enjoy it. Enjoy it for sure. Noon kickoff on Saturday between Central and Jackson State. Should be a fun time. I can't wait to watch it.
But I'll say this to Central, though. I've covered 3 Celebration Bowls in person myself. I am covering the winning team 3 times. I am 3-0 at the Celebration Bowl. Okay. Do not make me 3-1. I'm going to say that to the Central Eagles, okay?
All right.
I have to leave Atlanta 4-0. 4-0 in the 4-0. Let's go.
Hey yo, we do it for the culture, home of the greats, in Carolina good from the culture state. Then it's Cox and Chris Lea about to dig in the crates, so turn it up, cause it's time for the culture state. Yeah, we do it for the culture, home of the greats, in Carolina good from the culture state.